All right, everybody, hold on a moment. Hold on a moment. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Speech Moss, and I am the host of the Shout Out Show, the SOS. Thank you so much for joining us. We have quite a show today. Our topic today is Trump, Islam, Muslims, and potential. I want to give a shout out to all my DC family. Thank you so much for supporting. I make sure that I give appropriate thank you for everybody. Appreciate it. Here we are in 2026, and the world has changed in a very drastic way. Not necessarily positive, but we're gonna get into that because I think sometimes you can find a positive, even when some negative things happen. You can find the positive. We're trying to do that today. Give a shout out to Masjid down in Texas. Working hard on resilience content. If anybody's in the southeast area, southwest area, you have time and you want to get down to Houston, we have a cadre of imams that will be coming out and supporting this event. We've got 40 imams coming to the city of Houston, all over the city of Houston. They're going to be on bars across the way. They're going to be giving, I want to say, working in the spirit of Imam Wattadin Muhammad. May Allah be pleased with him. And get out there and doing some things. And then they're going to have a conference. We'll be having a comedy show there called Grown Muslim First Comedy. We're going to be there. Hopefully, I'll have a couple of guests trying to sign up Brother Marlon Hill, extremely funny, five-time Apollo winner, coming down to us. Okay. A couple of days ago, we were privy to what is called U.S. intervention or American exceptionalism. What it actually is, brothers and sisters, is we have a situation, scenario, we've instituted as close as we can regime change. Now, we haven't seen it this big. What I mean by regime change is we change our leaders in this case, again, legally, in the international community, the president of Venezuela, Maduro was kidnapped and his wife. That needs to be said, and we get into the politics or the geopolitics of it. I want everybody to understand the concept of a bully, and that the U.S. is now taking on the, I want to say, the dynamics or the politics of being a bully, an international bully. And you take on the aspects of being an international bully when you realize that you lack substance, you lack things. The United States lacks wealth, so we take it from everybody else and we say this is diplomacy. We take it from everybody else and we say that this is for the good of the country, that we will change infrastructure of some nations under the auspices that if the US says we need to do it, it's in our rights and it's a part of national security, which is the biggest crock of poo poo that you put out. We as citizens here in the United States, now what everybody be listening, Muslims especially, you are under a particular type of specter that these things are happening and people are looking for reaction. And they're looking for reaction two ways. One, to dispel any kind of dissent. But then number two, people are looking because they want to see who is going to have authentic voices about things that are happening. Not even dissent, but just clarity about the things that are. It's like in church when I was a young kid in church, and you would have people sing. We were looking not just for the best singer, the person who had the best passion when they sung. And so now it's a passion play in international politics that, they're looking at the United States. Things are being done to international and the bravado and the braggadocio that comes with it. Colombia is next, Cuba is next. We're gonna get Greenland. The United States is gonna take over Greenland if we have to use military force. Let me tell you guys, the narrative has already been put out. The narrative has already been put out. If you go to other countries, what they talk about is that we don't have a president, we have a despot. And in that space of the despot, we have people who are around who are sycophants who will not say anything. This is no longer the United States, this is Trump land. I will be starting a different podcast. It'll be on, it will be on, TikTok. It's just called Black Man Lost in Trump Land, and I will give you the geopolitics of white supremacy white supremacy masking itself as social justice, as narrative, as the moral doctrine, manifest destiny. See, manifest destiny was a US thing used against Americans. Now the Monroe Doctrine has put us in a space where internationally we figure that we can pick and choose. My point, and this is a valid point, we're gonna go to the break. My point is, I've never been a fan of the United States doing things in the name of the people that don't benefit the people. This psychology of oil in Venezuela, we've known Venezuela's had this oil for years. What they're not gonna tell you is the amount of money it's gonna cost to refine this oil. If you knew how much it was gonna cost to just draw the oil, it's gonna be in the billions of dollars. And these things like Chevron and Unocal and all these people, Conoco, they're not gonna pay the bill. It's just like if you live in a US an NFL football that's been there for any amount of time, what they won't tell you is that team stayed there in that stadium because they held the city hostage, or they made sure that the city said, "If you" and the stadium, they built another stadium. The city built another stadium, tax, what they get is all the rev what they get is all the being in that stadium, skyboxes, things of that, and they never pay. They never tax. The United States is into a situation, a very, very bad relationship with Venezuela oil, because the fact of the matter is we don't know what it is. This has been a losing situation for quite a number of it's so bad. There was a show, Jack Clancy, whatever, had Bunk from, The Wire on there, and the guy actually had a report on a show, I think it was on Amazon Prime, and he talked about Venezuela oil 3 years ago, 3 years ago, I saw it. And we've known for quite a long time that Venezuela has had this they've been the top producer. They have reserves that have been here for years. The problem is the infrastructure. And so when you get to this point, we say we're gonna steal oil off these boats, these large tankers. When you go to get the other oil, there's no other oil. You're stealing oil that technically, possibly belongs to Iran, technically possibly belongs to Russia, technically possibly belongs to China. And so it affects their functionality. Now I'm gonna get into the other part of it. Trump, Islam, Muslims, and potential. I think there's a connection in all of these. We'll be right back. Please don't move. This is Preacher Moss on the Shout Out Show. Thank you so much. Join us. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. I want to give a shout out to our shout out family, faithful shout out family. Let me get them up here. Don't move. We're gonna get to you Instagram as well. Shout out to Alphonse Rashid, my man. Wow, looking at Barakatu, our Canadian envoy to the show. What you think about this? This is I'll talk later. Shout out to Sister Ree, our dear Read one of our first day ones. Mom says hello. Read, can you text me? I looked around for that Backstreet Boys cup and I cannot find it. I'm sorry, but give me a call. We're still looking. Shout out to my main man, Big Brother Bilal Salahuddin, his twin sister Sonia Dalton, Salahuddin. Wow, Nick Masalano, Barakatuh, Barakatuh, Big Brother JT. Well, you little brother JT. I hope you enjoy your stuff. It's supposed to hit tomorrow. Hey man, I hope you enjoy it. Shout out to Wale to you in the whole Thomas, my main man, Eric from South Carolina. Wale, beloved, how you doing? Shout outs to all of y'all in the new year. Man. What's happening with you? You good? Holler at me. My main man QR Shot. Assalamu alaikum. But beloved from Philadelphia, we got Tro Garden of Vita. We got Trogarden and Vita. Okay. I think that's is that all? No, I think so. Mobilist Kitchen. Thanks for joining us. This is my Chappelle. What's going on, niece? That's my niece. How you doing? Assalamu alaikum. Wabarakatuh. We need to talk. Well, pride, full patches. Sounds good to me. My main man. This is uh record star name. My main man Jay Chapman. Uh, alumnus going all the way back to 1984. You talk about having a long friendship. This is my main man. Hope you and your family doing well. Ali A. Jones. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks so much for joining us. Samir Doma, good to see you too, beloved. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. X Claire 454. Big Ak Kareem. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. Thank you for the salam from the man. Samir. Let me put something out here to you guys. And maybe this makes sense, maybe not. At this point in time, if you start looking at the aspect of two things in this country, the aspect of potential and the aspect of motivation. In the United States, we've blurred the line in terms of potential and motivation. Potential is natural. Motivation requires consistency in regards. If it's beyond yourself, you don't interact with the world all by itself. It doesn't happen that way. That's number one. Number two is for the Muslims, and I want to say the faith believing community. The faith believing community has an addendum, but they also have, if you will, a conundrum. That conundrum is, can you point out faithfully and say these are the things that are wrong and stand on your principle? Some people go, well, it's not that. It's not. No, 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 no. I'm very old. Can you stand on your principles that are, of course, informed by your core values? Islam is a religion that, particularly for converts, this is the power of the convert Muslim in the United States and the power of the convert Muslim throughout the world. To come into Islam from quote unquote the dunya of the world requires a specific and unique type of motivation. Let me say it again. Requires a special and unique type of motivation. It is leaving the world that gives you things that doesn't require any motivation. I'm sorry, motivation. It doesn't require accountability. We take things for granted, right? Islam is the first religion, and I want to say for me, that made me look at accountability in proximity to what my motivation. Old heads say this, and let's put it out there. Because in some regards, to their credit, the powers that be, the MAGAs and the Trumpsters and the white evangelists, white national evangelists have figured out something about the Muslim community here in the United States, and they hope that they can leverage around the world. They're here for the American Muslim, as America in and of itself promotes American exception. People look at American Muslims and say, "What are you guys doing about it? How are you 10 toes down in this particular situation?" Now, here's the thing that's been killing us for years, and we just don't have honest conversations about it. And it would be the Islam in America. Islam in America, particularly for the African American experience and engagement of it, is totally different than Islam around the world. It's totally different than Islam in Pakistan and India. We don't leave the United States to go find Islam. We go to expand our Islamic knowledge, but we don't leave to find Islam. What I mean by that is the frameworks are here. I was saying this to a friend of mine, and I've heard this, and I don't want anybody to be upset or offended, but we're going to get to the truth because we're talking about Muslims, we're talking about Islam, Muslims' potential in Trump land. They figured it out. Somewhere along the line, somebody said, here is the history of these people that you're so afraid of. Here's the history of these people that you feel are going to have these conflicts. And the fact of the matter is, they know we can't do it because we have fundamental differences. If the indigenous Muslims, immigrant Muslims, outside of praying on Friday, we have a lot of territory that we have not broached. Historically, these are the facts. When African Americans found Islam in America or rediscovered it and framed it as a social notion, as a protest religion, they did so specifically with the idea of building for the community around themselves and the community in themselves. Around themselves and in themselves. And this would be the barometer of their social network, their social value, community worth, and value assessment and engagement. So much so that it was done in the absence of traditional Islamic teaching. That the power to be in alignment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was so powerful that we didn't have the proper knowledge. But the idea is that it would lift us up out of our particular condition. It would educate us, it would motivate us to the point that we were willing to go into our communities and deal with Muslims, but also deal with people who were not. On the flip side, in the early 60s and mid 60s, the Civil Rights Act, and Origins of Man Act, and bringing people over from different areas, Pakistan, Arabia, all these spots, that they get a chance to come to America. They did not come to America with the heart and the spirit to take this looking around at the disparity, looking around at the inequality, looking around at the racism, looking around at the discrimination and the Jim Crow. It did not enter their mind to take this religion that historically is a religion of liberation and apply it to the black, apply it to the black, apply it to the black community. They were here to make money. In the second iteration, and I say this all due respect, in the second iteration, it becomes easier because why? Because this brand of African Islam, and you can argue all aspects of it, the brand of African American Islam, it didn't die out in the 50s or the 60s or 70s. It evolved. It found its way back to traditional teachings of Islam. And that becomes the engagement. That becomes, oh, we're okay now. It also becomes, you know, now you need to watch my back. Not necessarily watch you need to watch my back because now we're in this particular spectrum of Islam. We're all brothers. Now, now, Islam as a brokering point here in the United States, I think is interesting because people don't really understand the power of the religion. The power of the religion as opposed to how the government frames it. They don't necessarily go after Islam. They go after Muslims. You know what I'm saying? They don't go after Islam, they go after Muslims. They demonize Muslims. And while they may come close to trying to demonize Islam, it's 2 things that happen. Number 1, you gotta realize Islam is such a hybrid, you don't know who's Muslim and who's not. It's like back in the day, there's a guy named Toure, he does, he does a whole show about black people passing for white. Well, we have Muslims in this country passing for American. We have Muslims in this country passing for doctors, lawyers, and police because we don't know what they are. I was just doing some research, uh, and I wanna know who are like the black Muslim athletes going back to like the 1950s and 60s. Well, the first thing that came up was the fact that back then you couldn't say you were a black Muslim. You hear what I'm saying? You couldn't say you were a black Muslim. You could probably say I'm a follower of Islam, but you couldn't say I was a black Muslim. You couldn't put those 2 words together. And I was trying to find out who may have taken Shahada, but become Muslim under the auspices of the Nation of Islam, maybe Ahmadiyya. You know who took or who became Muslim? Some of the best boxers of our time, not just Muhammad Ali. They said that Sugar Ray Robinson became Muslim back then. Joe Louis became Muslim back then. Brother Wallace Muhammad, who was a boxer, Wally Muhammad, you don't hear about him because he didn't do the big bout international fights and the big budget fights, but he was a guy who was Muslim under the auspices of Nation of Islam, who was fighting and presenting for his community at the same time. Okay, so what does this have to do with what we're seeing now? It has a lot. It has a lot to do with what we're seeing now because the aggression comes in a space where people feel that religion can't save us because we're not connected to it. Let me say people believe that religion can't save us because we're not connected to it. Because in the minute of geopolitics, we found a way to lose our way in the context of how we talk about our religion, our religious identity. See, religious identity has been demonized. At the same time, geopolitics and corrupt government has been deified. The flip, if you will, is it's almost like the old 5%ers. The job of the civilized is to educate the uncivilized. Well, now it's the job of the uncivilized to make it a point where it doesn't matter whether you're civilized or not, that this will be the status quo. And we don't have a president anymore. We don't have a president anymore. We have a despot. We have someone who wishes to be a king. During the first Trump administration, we laughed. I laughed, but I said it seriously that this man wants a third term. He didn't get it with Biden. I'm like, but he wants a third term. And in this spot, people go preach. How does this stop? How can we stop him? You're not gonna stop him with elections because you get stole the elections. You're not gonna stop him with laws because all lawmakers are bought off. You're not gonna stop him with court decisions because the court has been bought off. What is going to happen, and I say this with the most sincere energy I can say, what would have to happen is a coalition of right sober thinkers have to stop engaging with those who are drunk with power. That those who will tell you what you didn't see when you know what you saw, it requires no explanation. We don't need to be around those people. That the pull and tug of race and division in the United States, you can find just as many the righteous Latinos, blacks, and whites as you can crazy folks. That the wellspring, if you will, is pure pure innocence. I was watching on Facebook, and I brought this up. I brought this up a couple shows ago. If you want to go back, I can't remember the name of the show, but I brought this up a while ago. Anyway, we talked about Dr. Martin Luther King, and this is a book by Malcolm Gladwell, and they talked about Martin Luther King, and the book was like David and Goliath or something like that. And they talked about Martin Luther King down in Albany, Georgia. And at this point in time, it was written in the book like the whole idea of civil rights movement it was on life support. Nobody was getting it. Hear me now. It was on life support. Nobody was getting it. It wasn't a driving issue. Going back to the 60s, you have to understand that the 60s was people were accepting Jim Crow and racism for what it was. This was just the way of life. And to employ something that would disrupt this way of life was scary for folks. Walaikum assalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My man Jabril out of Charlotte. How you doing, beloved? Let me throw this out at you. This idea of engaging society that didn't like you, created laws to hamper just every aspect of your life mobility. There were people who said, we can do the same. I can do bad by myself, but I can do great by myself too. And people have begun to build these life forces, stores, banks, educational foundations, the whole nine. And there are those who argue about the civil rights. It's like, well, the integration wasn't particularly meaningful because it just let everyone else get in front of black folks. That can be disputed, but for the most part, it's true. So this, when they talked about King in Albany, Georgia, they talked about the failure of the civil rights movement under his auspices. That he couldn't keep people motivated. They specifically went to Albany, Georgia, to irritate a white sheriff down there to get him to act violently towards him. And they stayed down there and it didn't work. It didn't work with this particular sheriff. In fact, you know, they wanted to get arrested. It was Christmas time. He let them go. Now they found a foil in Bull Connor. Bull Connor, alcoholic, white guy, redneck. He gave Martin Luther King everything he wanted. Abusing black people, attacking black people, put the racists on them, put the dogs on them, and it made for great TV. And the cause of the Negro suffrage in the world, the United States becomes an idea that's out in the world, right? There was this thing of a man who basically with the Montgomery bus boycotts came to Martin Luther King and said, "Hey man, I get this whole bus boycott thing." He said, "But check this out. Instead of us just not riding their buses, why don't we buy our own buses and transport our own people?" To that, King and his organization said, "No, this is the route we're going." Now, I'm saying that there were differences of opinion way back then, but they weren't necessarily resolved. I'm saying right now we have a difference of opinion. The believers and people of faith and the sober-minded need to make a decision about, do you invest emotional trauma in a government, in a leader who's not gonna give you peace, not gonna give you fairness, not gonna give you justice. In some regards, I say, you have to just continue to go collect your check, do your work, raise your family. At some point in time, that'll come for all of us. But if you have the temerity to say that I've built this fortress and I didn't waste time and sweat equity and emotional investment trying to fight the insane, trying to fight the arrogance, trying to fight the madness, because there's the thing that if people are gonna be mad, you need to let them be mad in their space. You know, um, I know I'm running over, so I apologize, but I want you guys just to think about it. Let me put a bow on this before we get out of here. We need to start talking less about the potential of something, what our motivations are to deal with some of the problems that we see. That's number one. Number two, Muslims, you're under attack. And the reason you're under attack is because you don't stand up for Islam in a large, broad way. In a very large, broad way. People don't fight to defend Jesus Christ in the Christian community. They don't. They figure they have the numbers. Even their depiction and grotesque depiction sometimes of Jesus this way as a white national evangelist, somehow his doctrine uh, bolsters and supports the racism, anti-Semitism that we see all over the world. Even them, that group, they don't have to defend Jesus Christ. They don't even have to know Jesus Christ. But for the Muslim, I'm going to tell you or suggest to you what I learned from the Muslims in the first. That's a Muslim nation of Islam. It's Ahmadiyya Muslims. That when they looked at social problems, they looked through a lens, a very, very careful lens that was developed that help you put religious perspective to your actions and frame your motivations. So I'm going to ask everybody out in Instagram land, YouTube land, begin specifically framing your motivations and find like-minded people. Find like-minded people. Develop I want to say consensus about this like-minded, and then build communities. Build communities. Hey, listen, Preacher Moss, this is a shout out show. You guys have been amazing. Hey, listen, we got Resilience Con happening down in Houston, Texas at the end of the month. It's the 30th, January 30th, February 1st, and February 2nd. You don't want to miss it. Got all these imams coming out. Shout out to Sister Thomas, who's not able to make it here today. We hope she's doing well. And shout out to you. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Preacher Moss, and I'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Take care.